and the moon became as blood, and the seas boiled, and the skies fell. Judgment Day, Judgment Day.
Hi everyone, welcome to Priority Holder, and today we're playing Blue-Red 8-Moon Prison in the Timeless format. Now one set of our moons is the classic Blood Moon, which turns non-basics into mountains, and the other set of our moons comes from Harbinger of the Seas, which turn non-basics to islands. So the idea is to punish the greedy mana bases in Timeless and locking people out. Now that necessitates us protecting ourselves from our moon effects since we're running double-pipped cards of each color. So obviously we're running Scalding Tarns, but also necessitates running Prismatic Vista. That way we can set up the correct basic for whatever moon effect we're using. Another part of the sort of mana disruption plan is Stifle, which you can use to counter people's fetch activations. Another consequence of Stifle is that you can also stifle the evoke triggers of the pitch elementals, so it's like you can like pseudo scam them into play by stifling the evoke trigger. And Fury plays an important role in this deck as the way to like interact with 0 mana, and then we can recoup the cards later on with like the One Ring. And another part of this deck is that we're running so many situational cards, like say we're playing mono red and they have a bunch of mountains, they don't care about blood moons. But we need to run stuff like Fable the Mirror Breaker with mode 2 as well as FOMO to sift through the situational cards and find what we need. So let's take them to the moon. So this hand's reasonable. It has one of our moon effects in hand. Nice to have FOMO as like an early play. Have to see if we need to save Shatterskull. Okay. Turn 1 Guide of Souls from the opponent, so it's pretty clear we're playing against an energy deck. One Ring, okay, that is really good. That's going to be nice. Holding off on the Scalding Tarn because we might need to grab a basic, and this looks like it's going to be Harbinger of the Sea, so we'll want to get a basic mountain so we don't lock ourselves out of red. So that's why I didn't try to grab a Surveil Land. As the opponent drops an Amped Raptor, let's see what they spin into, and it's a Flage, which is not good for us. That's not only going to Lightning Helix us, but it's going to keep a Flage in their graveyard ready to go. So, and they're gaining energy, and the opponent's just going off over there. So they're going to crash in with Guide of Souls, and thankfully used up their energy reserves to cast Flage in the first place. So none of them have like, you know, gotten the Guide of Souls attack trigger yet. So we drew another Scalding Tarn. It seems like we're lining up for Harbinger, so we're going to have to grab a basic mountain here. Of course, rocking the Mirage basics since we'll be playing so many basics today. Now, I actually agonized over this for a long time, so like what land to pitch, you know, or if we should, you know, because you sort of want to keep Shatterskull in case you draw a Fury, which we just did right there. So ended up pitching the Shock Land, and so now's the question: do we Fury right now before things like if the opponent drops in a Johnny, then Guide of Souls goes off. And then all of a sudden Fury doesn't kill everything. Not to mention that we're hoping to Harbinger like really soon. So I decided, okay, just going to Fury these creatures down. Guide of Souls is just that problematic. So, and we technically have Subtlety, but we'd have to pitch cast using Harbinger. So that anyway, doesn't seem very good. Now the opponent has a really strong follow-up with another Amped Raptor. So we just gotta hope it isn't too horrible for us. Alright, and they find an Ocelot Pride. Let's see what their follow-up is. Do they have land into removal spell? Would be sort of annoying, but it looks like that's probably what's happening. Okay, this opponent is not protected at all from any Blood Moon effects. Alright, that's not great. So they're going to reanimate our Fury, which is really bad because now Harbinger is... yeah, sure, it locks them out, but look how much power and toughness they have over there, so... not great. If we had, like, a spare blue card to, like... well, I guess Subtlety wouldn't have worked on Reanimate, so... Moment of Truth, we have a Prismatic Vista. Have to get an island here if we're going to slam Harbinger. And just going to slam Harbinger, which will at least lock them out of any more spells, but we will take a massive hit here, because Harbinger doesn't block Amped Raptor or Fury. So we're going to get bashed for 8 damage here, falling to 6. We have a One Ring, and the opponent's completely locked out at the moment. So One Ring is going to at least give us one more turn. So we have to figure out how to deal with Amped Raptor and Fury. Ocelot Pride's not doing anything at the moment. Okay, so that's step one. So sink into Stupor. So Fury is actually our card, so we can bounce it back into our own hand. So we have Ring Protection right now, so the opponent's not going to attack. But the land coloring gets sort of weird, but the opponent is still locked out of everything. Blood Moon is a pitch card for Fury. We don't want to... So with these multiple moon effects, if we played Blood Moon, it would have a later timestamp and replace Harbinger's effect. So we definitely don't want to play a Blood Moon. So what I'm going to do now is use Sink into Stupor to bounce our Fury to hand, and it seems like with the Ring chipping away and Amped Raptor not having, like we don't have a good block for it, it seems pretty clear, and the Blood Moon doing nothing right now. It seems pretty clear to use Fury to cut down their creatures, which will also open up a Harbinger attack. So we got to kill them before we kill ourselves with like the One Ring. So every non-basic right now is an island, so it doesn't matter really what we play. So we can crash in. Now, the next problem is finding a solution for our One Ring, which is going to rapidly kill us as we fall to 3 life. Another Harbinger is not great, so at this point we just got to activate the ring, even though it would likely kill us. So we did draw a spare One Ring. A Stifle effect would also buy us some time, but we really do need to find another ring. So if we didn't find a ring right there, we'd have to play Fable and then like hold full control on our draw step to try and rummage with Fable's trigger into a Stifle to stifle the ring damage. So that, luckily we found the ring. We didn't have to do that, but you could have done that. And you want to make sure you keep the non-damaging ring. And we're just going to try and hold on for dear life. The opponent's rocking 3 colors, so they're unlikely to have basics. At least, like, they probably have like 1 of each, you know, so they're not likely to draw them. We just got to kill them. Now I'm going to pitch a Fury. We can't hard cast a Fury because we only have 1 mountain right now. And crash in with Harbinger. And I'm just holding up Subtlety right here. Like, we could have played another Harbinger, but like just wanted to like really protect ourselves. And yeah, that was enough for the opponent. So really nice lockdown win against Energy. Got a little scary facing against our One Ring, but their mana base betrayed them. So we are going to shock that in and hold up Stifle. Alright, so the opponent didn't even play a fetch, and they played a Monastery Swift Spear, so that's going to crash in and hurt us, and it's not happy to have taken that extra 2 damage, but in the dark I think you want to do that, because stifling a fetch is just really powerful. So Prismatic Vista, always want to have an eye on like what moon effect you're likely to use. In this case we have Harbinger, so I'm grabbing Basic Mountain. Now I agonized over this for a while because we want to keep Shatterskull because it's our 1 pitch card for Fury, and it's potentially a land. But Harbinger, like One Ring is nice in the graveyard because that goes a long way towards Delirium. It's easier to get creatures in the graveyard. So first I'm like, alright, maybe the One Ring, but we're also playing against an aggro deck, and the One Ring is super strong against aggro decks. So I decided actually to pitch Harbinger. The opponent is at least partially a blue deck anyway. So I'm like, okay, I'll just pitch Harbinger. You could see like I really did think about it for some time. Well, it didn't end up mattering. Pitch Harbinger, draw Harbinger, and I love FOMO because we have a lot of like situational cards. Like if opponent's on mono red, we want to pitch our Blood Moons, and FOMO just helps us clear through the clunky cards, and it's just like a chunky blocker. And once you have Delirium, it's a potent attacker, so I love that card. Opponent plays Amped Raptor and spins into a Slick Shot, and so this is gonna be pretty juicy pitch cast Fury right here. It will use like our land with our MDFC, and unfortunately won't be able to kill all 3 of their creatures, but it's still gonna be pretty dang strong for us. So pitch cast Fury, you could see me toggle on full control because we can do like a pseudo scam here by stifling Fury's evoke trigger. So you need to hold full control, that way you can respond to your own stuff. So once we line up the damage, then we can stifle the evoke trigger, and it's going to confirm that. So we're going to stifle that and leave ourselves with the Fury in play after that. And we have a long way to kill them, but the opponent being an aggro deck, I decided not to attack because like if they like kill our untapped Fury and then attack it with the Amped Raptor, like things can get bad quickly, especially because we're still 2 lands short of a 1 ring. So decided to keep 2 of them back, and I'm glad I did. So the opponent did have the Bolt for the Fury, and now our FOMO holds back Amped Raptor. Okay, so Thundering Falls is pretty amazing. Subtlety, we'd have to pitch cast at this point. We want to find the lands for the 1 ring and just start like really taking control of the game. Alright, and the opponent plays a Balmor. So it becomes clear once we see Balmor that they're probably like, well, that one's like a sort of spell-centric one, but there's usually a lot of like wizard synergies. But the opponent seems to have sort of like a red-blue tempo deck. So we play Harbinger, but the opponent's also a blue deck, so they're able to just Stern Dismissal. And Balmor is tricky because now the Amped Raptor can just attack right through our FOMO. So we're in pretty desperate need of a pitch card or a land. And we did find a pitch card, so because the opponent could just keep feeding, playing spells to keep getting the Amped Raptor past our blocker. So I'm going to lead with Harbinger, just trying to play around any potential counter spells, though I don't think there's really that many that can like deal with the fear. There's like Flare of Denial or something like that, so it's not out of the question, but just playing Harbinger to be safe. And as we line up the damage, if you enjoy seeing multiple moons, please Winter Flame the like button. So we're gonna line up our damage, and it seemed like the opponent might have had a response. I don't know if they had a bounce spell they were considering to save a creature, but anyway, that feels pretty good. And double 1 ring in hand feels amazing. We've locked him out of red once again, so we have to see how much time that buys us, basically. Alright, so it's least spot us sometime. Alright, Fable of the Mirror Breaker is excellent here. Going to just crash in with both creatures. Once again, we don't want to give them a ton of time to try and draw out of this. I did seem the opponent was considering something. We're going to attempt to slam Fable the Mirror Breaker, see if it resolves. Alright, so the opponent has another Stern Dismissal, so that's going to unlock their mana. But Fable is clutch because if the Goblin token survives, it can get us the treasure to start the 1 ring train. So that's the idea. Not to mention, like, Fable just provides so much value. The opponent plays Balmor. And Bolt Wave. So this is why we have to be cautious of our life total. The opponent is like all out playing cards like Bolt Wave. I'm gonna pitch both FOMO and the 1 ring because we just want a land. We just need to keep the spells flowing. Okay, Dragon's Rage Channeler is excellent. So, and not to mention pitching the 1 ring activates Delirium for FOMO. So we have options here. So the opponent does not have, like, they have a medium block, but not like an amazing block. So we attack with both. Goblin Shaman is going to create a treasure upon attack, and FOMO can untap the goblin so that it can attack during the second combat and get us another treasure. So the opponent gets 1 block, but the goblin gets to head in again and make another treasure. And so here's the question: is it safer to play 1 ring plus Dragon's Rage Channeler, or is it better to play Harbinger plus Dragon's Rage Channeler? And Harbinger will lock them out of red mana, but ring protect anyway. So it's like if the opponent has like double bolt, like once our ring protection wears off, then we just like lose, So it's honestly not perfectly clear what should be done, but I end up opting for Harbinger plus Dragon's Rage Channeler because that's a blocker plus like a mana shutdown plan. So like it's going to be hard for the opponent to get out. Okay, so they did have the basic mountain, and they also finish it with the Roiling Vortex, which is just not going to cut it. It's going to ding us for a little bit, but we have tons going on. So Fable's going to put, and yeah, the opponent just packs it in. So that worked out pretty nicely against blue-red tempo, and this hand, I mean, any hand with Fury is pretty incredible, and there's a Blood Moon. So now the opponent has basic planes on the other side, so Blood Moon is already looking not as good, which means it might just be pitch fodder for Fury. So now this is me right here deciding whether to play just a tap Shock or to try and get a Surveil land. And ended up deciding to, because you like need to figure out like what kind of basics you need to get depending on whether you're going to use Blood Moon or Harbinger, you know. So you have to be very cognizant of like what you're grabbing. A Johnny is not good news. So going to grab a Surveil land with the Flooded Strand. And the thing, like frankly, like Blood Moon is just not as potent against decks that are half red. And another Blood Moon here is just not what we want to see, and also contributes to Delirium. So like just a great reason to Surveil it away. And there's Dragon's Rage Channeler. So a Johnny is just such a nasty card. So I'm going to pitch cast Fury just to take it and the cat token down. Just to play it safe, because the opponent slams a Goblin Bombardment, then it's going to just get real nasty for us real quick. But this just allows us like a pretty sick double spell. You know, we play the Fury and then we can slam FOMO, and then we're feeling pretty good. It is an argument for Dragon's Rage Channel, but I think playing FOMO here is a little better. So the question is what basic to get with Prismatic Vista right here, like Island, Mountain. I end up grabbing Island just to cover for a Blood Moon, but honestly might have been better to grab a Mountain, because Harbinger is much more potent against what the opponent's doing. So alright, so the opponent has the swords for our FOMO and Surveil land. Okay, so we're cruising into like 1 ring mana, and the opponent surveils a Flage away, which is bad news for us. So we have another fetch right there. And yeah, this is just pretty straightforward turn. Slammed Fable, passed the turn. Always important to check the number of cards in their graveyard. So they only have 3 right now, including Flage. The opponent has a White Orchid Phantom. So they're going to nuke our red-blue land. And I run greedy mana bases in like tons of my decks. Once again, grabbing an island here. Probably should have grabbed Mountain to cover, once again, like for Harbinger. So I think that was a little misplay on my part, but a lot of my decks have greedy mana bases. This one is very honest because it's having to avoid both moon effects. So I think about this for a while, and honestly, I think we want to keep all the cards because we have like the 4th land for the 1 ring. We have a Blood Moon, which can at least possibly delay the Flage, if not even like completely exclude it. Now that was a misplay on my part. I should have played Scalding Tarn and grabbed basic Mountain. It may not seem like it makes a difference, but like I said, because we run Harbinger, we had to cover ourselves from both moon effects. So the opponent just hard casts a Flage, eats our Goblin, and they're going to crash in with White Orchid. So right now, it doesn't seem, you know, because Scalding Tarn is like a red source under Blood Moon. But if we want to switch to Harbinger later on, we will lose all of our red sources. So this is one of those things you have to be careful for. And so there's Harbinger, which we definitely want to use because it's a much harder lock than Blood Moon. Going to use the 1 ring first, just because it's a little more mana efficient, and it gives us, you know, more cards, like just to keep hitting land drops and just to keep the battle going. So it does give the opponent another turn to, and so they have another Flage they hard cast. So their graveyard is stacking up, but currently they can't escape any of the Flages. And we have ring protection, so Phantom's just going to bounce off us. Let's see if the opponent has another play. And they have a Ragavan. Okay, so alright, we draw a basic island. And another Harbinger. So trying to decide what to do. So sequencing here matters. If we want to play Dragon's Rage Channeler, we need to play it right now because Harbinger is going to shut off all of our red sources. Once again, because I was not vigilant in preparing for it. So and trying to think about the mana situation. So Dragon's Rage Channeler is, we don't want Ragavan to hit us, because Ragavan hits us, then the opponent starts getting treasures, and then that unlocks all their stuff, you know, so. But Harbinger should shut them down pretty hard. Basically, they can only cast white spells right now. So we're praying they don't have like another swords, because then things get real nasty real quick. And you could see how we've made it a little more difficult for ourselves by not grabbing a basic mountain at an earlier point in the game. So the opponent plays a land, snap blocking Ragavan to get this little trade right here. But we are losing life, and we are going to get, you know, repeatedly dinged by the One Ring. And there's an Ajani, so not great. Sink into Stupor is a pretty good draw. It just allows us some instant speed interaction. And there's a Stifle and a Fable, which we currently can't cast, once again, because we didn't prepare for it. So the question is what to do next. Any white removal spell unlocks all their mana, and so it seems pretty clear that we should play another Harbinger to protect against that. I'm also considering, you know, if we play a second Harbinger, what we can do is block the cat token and stifle the Ajani flip. So that's sort of where my mind's going right now. Is like, okay, like, because we can't take so much damage. The ring's eating us alive right now. The White Orchid Phantom just keeps cruising in. So I'm hoping right here to do that play I just described. Like, if they attack in with the cat token, trade off one of our Harbingers and stifle the Ajani flip. So we'll have to see what the opponent attacks with. So obviously Orchid Phantom's coming in, and they do attack with the token. Now we don't have enough mana for Sink into Stupor plus Stifle. That would make us like incredibly safe. But basically right here, weighing the risk of doing what I described, like, but it seems like with them being so locked down at the moment, it should be okay. But something like a Swords, because then unlock all sorts of instant speed red stuff, you know. So you do, like, this is like a little bit risky, but I'm just worried about my life total with the Ring and the Phantom going against this right now. All will be right again if we can just find a Fury. So, alright, so here it comes. So the Ajani is going to flip. I'm just going to stifle that trigger, because that would just get out of hand with the Ajani Planeswalker. The opponent is probably not expecting that to happen. Alright, so the Ring is going to ding us. The opponent actually has a response, so they're going to attempt to Ephemerate, and honestly that actually wouldn't be the worst for us, because if they blow up one of our lands we can grab a mountain. But this is an incredible opportunity, because Sink into Stupor puts the Phantom back into their hand, and they can't cast it right now because it's double white. So that was just like an incredible opportunity. I'm not sure why they waited until like our upkeep for that, and now we finally find a mountain. And with our life total falling so low, like we can't just keep, you know, throwing out Fables or Harbingers, or, you know, we got to take it a little seriously. So I'm going to replace the Ring with a new one, get us some ring protection, and shut off that source of life loss. And the opponent is like pretty locked up right now. We know there's at least one of the cards in hand that's dead. Okay, so that is a live draw right there. So Ephemerate is going to blink Ajani and make a new cat token. So now we have to worry about the potential of an Ajani flip once again. Not going to draw off the Ring just because we're at such a dangerously low life total. But drawing a basic mountain there is incredibly clutch, because that means... So first, once again, just to completely cover ourselves, even though like there's basically nothing the opponent can do to stop this, we're at the point now where we can hardcast Harbinger and hardcast Fury, and Fury is just going to like annihilate their cards. Not only that, but it's going to fizzle their rebounded Ephemerate. So just going to cut down their cats, and now we can finally start attacking. So Harbinger can cruise in. Thing is, it will not take very long with Fury, especially if we can flip a Fable. Like, honestly, by the time Fable flips, Fury would have killed them already. Fury is just an awesome card. I love it. Now, if you're interested in seeing more red-white decks, I'll link one right here that I played myself. So Yeah, I'm just due diligence going to play a Fable and hold up Subtlety just in case something happens. But yeah, you could see me thinking about Fable, like the second Fable. It's just not worth it. Like the opponent's going to die like basically next turn. Yeah, so we knocked them down to 12, and we have 12 points of damage. Plus we have Subtlety covering, you know, any creature that they might play. And this is the power of these moon effects. You know, the opponent has tons of powerful cards. They literally can't cast any of them right here. It's also the power of having two different land type moon effects, you know. So when Blood Moon isn't as good, maybe Harbinger is, and vice versa. So we cruise in, and we're going to deal the exact 12 damage to take out this opponent and move right into the next game. This hand is nice. A little land light, but we're going to be able to turn one a Dragon's Rage Channeler and fish for lands with our Thundering Falls on turn 2. Had to see what the opponent has in store for us. Alright, they have blue-black fetch. So basically at this point I'm going to keep any lands that we can find and hopefully use FOMO to dig closer to lands. Alright, so Thoughtseize is going to snag something from us. I think the one we most want at this point in time is FOMO, but it'll be interesting to see what the opponent takes because that'll inform us about their game plan. Okay, so they take FOMO because that's obviously strong for us. Now we did draw a Shatterskull, which is a land. There is an argument to playing Shatterskull here because it is a land that can be Thoughtseized or Inquisitioned. So against black, you have to be mindful of that. And we just are not close to casting Harbinger. Like we could keep it on top to pitch the subtle, but that's just anyway. Not. It seems better just get lands and move on from Harbinger. All right, so Chandler's gonna get Fatal Pushed, and they play a Mystic Sanctuary on the other side of the battlefield. All right, so going to bolt in the Shatterskull once again. Like you gotta be careful leaving the MDFCs in your hand because they can be discarded away. And holding on to see what kind of basic we might want to grab with Scalding Tarn. You have a lot of tough decisions about like what to rummage. This seems like another one of the hands where you don't want to pitch anything because we want the land for Subtlety, and we want to keep Fury because it could potentially be pretty good. Now the opponent is mana screwed over the other side. And another reason that I've neglected to mention was the possibility of Orcish Bowmasters. So, yeah, looking back, that was actually the reason why I didn't rummage right there. Because, you know, two black mana open, and our hand was already pretty good. So it's just senseless to expose ourselves to Bowmasters at that point. Now we can Subtlety it, and yeah, the opponent needs land, so that's like basically a kill spell. So they put it on the bottom, and yeah, they must have missed a land, and that was it. So pretty clean game. Moving right on to the next one. I don't always play around Bowmasters correctly, but that was one instance where I actually did. So, all right, Cacophony Scamp. So opponent is all in on the aggressive plan. It's one of those creatures that when it dies can deal damage equal to its power. So they're obviously looking to shell out a ton of damage. Gonna grab the Surveil land. FOMO is pretty great here because it can rummage away something, possibly draw us into a land, and you don't need to be super careful about the basics at this point. A second blue source might be nice to, have Harbinger at the ready, but the opponent leading on basic mountain means none of our moon effects are going to be relevant. So I'm going to pitch Harbinger and draw a new Harbinger. The reason I didn't pitch Blood Moon is because it's a pitch card for Fury, so neither of them are going to be relevant in this matchup. Now the opponent attacks in, so trying to think what could happen, just making sure I completely understand Cacophony Scamp. Like obviously they have something, like considering Swift Spear is also coming in. And maybe I should have just blocked and just forced them to, trade, just work their way through the creatures. but the opponent has a Titan strength. So they're some sort of, they're basically like a prowess deck, and they have a Cacophony Scamp trigger, which isn't relevant at this point in time. So they have nothing to proliferate. All right, there's a Stifle, and I was holding on to Fury because I wanted to see them play more creatures, but now we have like the awesome play of pitch cast Fury, getting rid of the useless Blood Moon. And I didn't realize it initially, but then I'm like, wait a second, we can actually stifle Fury's Evoke trigger and keep a 3/3 in play. So I didn't realize initially, but fortunately the opponent had a trigger go on the stack, which gave me time to toggle on, well, gave me an opportunity to respond to it. Otherwise, without their death trigger, would have potentially blazed right past this opportunity. So you have to, you know, Stifle is not like a common way to scam this stuff, but you have to look for those opportunities to, you know, get a Fury into play or get a Subtlety, you know. So was saved by their trigger getting the Fury into play, but it seems like a 3/3 double strike is just really tough for them to deal with. And yeah, the opponent has already fallen pretty far behind with all the resources they'd placed. So on to the next game. This deck is just super fun. Like, there's a lot of interesting puzzles, a lot of things to think about. Not to mention like free wins, like locking people out with Harbinger or Blood Moon, and it's just a great strategy. All right, opponent is living the life with the turn 1 Surveil, Flage into the graveyard, tons of value over there. All right, second copy of Fury is excellent. That means we can pitch cast if necessary. Not really do anything on turn 2. And yeah, this deck has sort of a high curve, so you have to play with that in mind. And going to grab a Surveil land, and this is just super annoying here. So a dashed Ragavan. So we have one option is to Surveil right now and try and put something lame on top that won't give them any value. But we're like, our only 1-drops are Dragon's Rage Channelers and Stifles, so it's unlikely to get anything useful to cast off like the treasure they're going to get right now. And I decided it's actually more worth it to do it after the Ragavan hits us and try and get something useful on top. So the opponent gets the treasure that goes to their end step, and going to do it post Ragavan hit. Deciding whether to do like a Surveil before or after will like entirely depend on the opponent's mana situation. But it just really sucks because Harbinger would have been super strong, except for the fact that the opponent now has a treasure. So like it really weakens Harbinger's potency right here. So the question is how to proceed. So I'm going to attempt to slam Harbinger because the upside's there, and this was just a stupid attack. I don't know why I did that, because the opponent still can dash Ragavan off the treasure and like just dare us into trading Harbinger. So that's a pretty big misplay, because if we leave back Ragavan, it puts them in a way more of a bind. So anyway, that I don't know why I did that. That was just a bad attack right there. Turns out it wouldn't have mattered. The opponent has a Fury that they pitch cast, and they can eat up both of our things. So, which will also unlock their mana. And here comes Ragavan to get them another treasure. So it's just really safeguarding them from any of our moon effects. And they found a fetch land anyway. So it turns out that misplay that I made wouldn't have mattered because of Fury, but it's just a tough situation right here. So we could technically scam a Fury into play by like pitch casting and stifling the Evoke trigger, but it's just, obviously they're playing stuff like Ragavan, so it seems better to hold on to it. And unfortunately, we only have 2 total blue sources, so I stifled their fetch right there to really just try and prevent them from grabbing a basic. But that means they're also just going to get to cruise in with Ragavan, and we don't have Sink into Stupor. And because they keep dashing it, they're just never exposing it to Fury. Alright, the opponent slams a 1-ring. Now, in this game, seeing like Ragavan and stuff like that, I was operating under the assumption. No, first of all, that ring that they stole is that's our one ring. I don't know if I clarified that. So what I'm going to do here is return it to our hand so that we can use it later on. Obviously the opponent's going to draw in response. So they stole the one ring from us with Ragavan. And there's been some clues about the opponent's deck that I was not following in real time. Like I said, I was operating on the assumption that they were an energy deck, but it becomes very clear that they're actually not an energy deck. There's a bunch of little things adding up. So the fact that they're playing Shatterskull, the fact that they're playing Fury, the fact that they're playing Fable, like these are all things that could be played in an energy deck. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to make a really all-in play right here. Opponent still doesn't have any basics, so I'm going to Harbinger and pitch cast Fury to take down their source of treasure generation. So my plan here is like, alright, I'm going to strand Ragavan in their hand. They won't have any more treasures. Hopefully this like hard locks them. But the thing is we've already seen Fury. So we know like given enough time, especially because Fable is going to help them rummage right here, they're going to be able to find a way out. And then we see a Blood Moon hit the graveyard. And by this point, it was sort of too late. So here comes a one ring from them. And like, so the clues were there that the opponent was actually a prison deck, but I didn't pick up on it. Like seeing Ragavan and stuff, I just assumed that we were playing an energy deck. And so that play I made where anyway, that turn where I played Harbinger and then pitch cast the Fury, I think I should have simply just hard cast a Fury, kill the Goblin token, and just move on and just keep those cards, because we've gone down so many cards. And look at the opponent's hand, like they have a ton of stuff. They can't cast it all yet. So I think it's just a poor read on my part. So we have a Shatterskull, which can kill stuff, but it's only at sorcery speed. It also is a potential pitch card for Fury, so it seems good to hold on to it. Not to mention the opponent's flipping Fable, so like that's like a really dangerous creature for them to have in play. So here's the one ring. And so I think had I clued in earlier that this was a prison deck, I would have played differently and we would have been in a better situation. I'm not sure it would have been, you know, how much better, but I've actually played an extremely similar prison deck to this. I'll go ahead and link it. I don't know if the opponent is running Chalice, but I run Chalice and Blood Moon in my version. So the opponent is able to Solitude down the Harbinger, and here comes Flage, and things are going real tough. So in the head-to-head battle of red-white prison versus blue-red 8-moon prison, I think red-white probably has an advantage, at least in how they build it and how I build it with one rings, solitudes, and furies. Meaning like our most potent thing to do against them is to play Harbinger, but they have tons of 0 mana ways to deal with it. And so not only the fact, you know, that we're trying to, you know, we have Blood Moon as an option, but them being a Blood Moon deck means like they're built to deal with it as well. And I think the main like trump card in all of it is Flage. Like the fact, you know, that our Harbinger doesn't really lock them down and they have Flage at the ready. So I'm trying to fight the good fight here. Slam FOMO, slam Dragon's Wait's Channeler, hoping to stifle the Flage trigger, because the opponent is getting up there with like the one ring damage. So like I'm hoping like, all right, so if they attack with Flage, I stifle that, then they don't gain the life from the Flage like lightning helix, and like maybe we can get their Dragon's Wait's Channeler. Except here comes Fury to play. So that is real tough, and things like, so it was already a long shot, like the whole like stifle the Flage, attack with Channeler, hope the ring can come close to killing them, because FOMO could have used it. Anyway, there was a pathway, but with how many cards the opponent has in hand and the fact their mana is no longer locked up, now Reflections can make a spare Fury, and so we are like mega dead here. Like, so this is just a small attempt at a moral victory to stifle the Fury damage, but yeah, we're super dead. So that was a tough one. Might have been winnable had I sussed out that they were a prison deck earlier on and not wasted so many cards. But fighting against all those flages, like, we just have no good way of dealing with them. So, moving on to the next game, though. Leading with Island to try and stifle a fetch. And the opponent misses with Once Upon a Time. Which, you could see me reacting like, what the heck? How did they miss with Once Upon a Time? And then it becomes somewhat clear. So the opponent plays an MDFC land. So they're probably on some sort of Belcher strategy. Or possibly like a Balustrade Spy, you know, self-mill Thassa's Oracle kind of thing. So they're going to Thoughtseize away the Harbinger. And that is at least a clue as to what matters to them. Like, I honestly thought they would take the Stifle. Maybe they're just planning on doing it with this copy of Thoughtseize. So here comes Thoughtseize. The opponent's just being friendly, trying to build Delirium for us. And they take the other Harbinger. So that at least informs me that they need the colors of mana that they're running. Like, certainly Dark, you know, certainly Thoughtseize, probably Dark Ritual. So if we can hit them with the Blood Moon or Harbinger, that'd be like really strong. So just doing a quick Delirium check to see if we need to crack the fetch before attacking, but it not necessary. Now the thing is, with the MDFCs and the Thoughtseizes, the opponent has already sacrificed a ton of life. So they play a tap land and pass to us. And there's a Blood Moon. And we've already seen that they were like, they didn't care about Stifle, but they cared about the Harbingers. So like I said, they need the black mana for whatever sort of combo thing they're doing over there. I'm going to lock up the second island just so we have Subtlety off basically anything. So we're going to get a Surveil right here, probably keeping... So this is tough. FOMO puts us closer to Delirium, but we need a fourth land for FOMO and Subtlety. So I'm like trying to like weigh what to do. And you could see me like agonizing over it. I think the decision is to put it in the graveyard, but the opponent has already seen enough at that point. So we'll move on to the next game. Playing against a Lurrus deck. Leading with the blue-white land, something you don't see every day out of Lurrus decks. And yeah, just clearly going to lead with the tap land here. Turn 2 FOMO, assuming it's still in our hand. Question is what to pitch. Alright, so the opponent's going to crack their fetch. And play Thalia, Guardian of Thraben, which honestly, like, was not expecting to see that. Good for us, though, is that we have FOMO, which can potentially wall off Thalia, and the question now is what to pitch to it. So we see their lack of basics over there and a ton of colors, so we're rubbing our hands together at the thought of blood mooning them, which Thalia is taxed right now. But the reason that last pitch decision was tough is because we need to make sure we have enough red cards in hand to pitch cast Fury to open up the blood moon. So, but the thing is, like, the opponent could easily have like mana drain or something like that. So we're going to have to see how much of the plan comes together. Now we do have Harbinger as like another backup plan, so we could just slam Harbinger, but the opponent is at least partially a blue deck. So you could see me like trying to think if it's the right window to do it. But anyway, I decide, alright, I'm just going to go for it. Attempt to Fury down the Thalia. So here comes Fury, cutting down Thalia. And I forgot to mention, like, I should have just blocked Thalia. Well, basically I was respecting their attack. Like, the opponent was already playing an unorthodox strategy. Maybe they had a combat trick or something. So, alright, I attempt to slam Blood Moon right here. And the opponent has mana drain. So, opponent has like an unusual build over there. Like, you don't usually see mana drain and Thalia in the same deck. And there's a Brainstorm. So, opponent's going to Brainstorm in response. We're not quite at Delirium yet, so we'll have to try and work our way towards it. And if you're interested in seeing Lurrus in action, I'll go ahead and link one of my Lurrus decks right now. Haven't played it in a little while. Might have to try and find another Lurrus deck. Alright, so the opponent's going to use some of their mana drain mana on Sauron's Ransom. And they have just like an incredible top 4 card. So it's like sort of like a Fact or Fiction. Except one of the piles is face down. So Lavinia seems pretty nasty for us considering how often we want to cast free stuff. So honestly, like, either pile is pretty good for them. Thankfully, neither of them are like super useful for them right now. So they opt to take the Tamiyo plus Demonic Tutor pile, and they're going to slam Tamiyo. So now, barring like a Flare of Denial, it seems like the shields are down for us to get them with Harbinger. Would be better to get them with Blood Moon, but we don't have one right now. And the opponent has shown 4 colors over there. I think there's a green source. And so I'm trying to think about the land check right here doesn't really matter. Just gonna slam Harbinger and like drastically restrict what they can do. If we had Delirium, we could get like an attack game, but it's just not worth attacking. And the opponent also has Delver of Secrets. Now Tamiyo's a little tough because she creates clues upon attacks and might be able to help them draw their way out of this. But given their colors, like, it should be pretty tough for them to find a way out. But they're also going to be taking a ton of damage from our attackers right now. So we're going to be able to have Subtlety at the ready. Going to crash in. And we'll have to pay attention to see if they can flip Delver, but that's going to be like way harder, like unless they have like a Brainstorm right here in response. Okay, so Delver doesn't flip. Good for us. So here's the question. So they're crashing with Tamiyo. Do we cast Subtlety in response to attempt to block Tamiyo and kill it in combat? Or do we save Subtlety for like another Delver or something like that? So I attempt to cast Subtlety to block Tamiyo, but the opponent has a memory lapse. So Harbinger is not super strong against them because they're obviously a pretty heavily blue deck, but they have a lot of different colored lands going on. So we're going to crash in again. And I think, given that we've already seen Mana Drain and Memory Lapse, I'm about to end the turn, like, you know what, like, it's probably better to just, considering they only have blue mana right now, they probably can't remove things very easily. Let's not give them an opportunity to counter it. We're just going to play Subtlety and, once again, hope that Delver does not flip. Alright, so they reveal a land, but it's not going to do anything. It's just going to be an island when it comes to play, and that's it. Well, this deck is super fun and really satisfying to play. I love locking people out with Blood Moon or Harbinger, and just with running 8 of them, you have so many more opportunities to do that. So it's just really fun. Fury pulls a lot of weight, and like this is just a really awesome strategy. Won a bunch of games. Feel like it's in a pretty good spot in the meta right now, and just has a lot of good things going for it. There are some other things I considered. So, and like the sort of the threat, 1 mana threat slot, it was also considered in Sleep Cursed Fairy, but honestly I think Dragon's Rage Channeler is just straight up better. In this kind of deck, we run so many situational cards. Like if we're playing against mono red, Blood Moon and Harbinger do nothing, and probably Stifle doesn't do that much. So we also have like a ton of clunky cards. Like I really prioritize rummaging or looting effects such as Fable and FOMO, and other ones I considered were like Ledger Shredder, which has completely fallen out of favor like since Bowmasters came to play, and I think this could maybe do a lot of work in this deck. Like, I don't know, like we're not super scared of Bowmaster since we have Fury and like Subtlety, so maybe this is a Ledger Shredder deck that can really help us churn through the cards and set up exactly what we need. Not to mention it becomes a huge threat. Malcolm's another one that can provide some rummaging. Is it Charm is one that's potential. It pitches to both Subtlety and Fury and can like give us a little more mileage against like the non-creature decks, though we're pretty decently set up with like the slamming like a moon effect on them. So just something to think about. Ill-timed Explosion if you feel like you need like a Wrath effect, so could potentially have a home. If you need to balance out like your basic island or basic mountain sources, like Lorien Revealed is consideration. I don't love Oliphant like in this kind of deck because it basically is just going to set up Reanimator targets for the potential like black opponents, so I'm not so certain about that. As always, got to shout out Chalice of the Void. Wanted to go for like stifling fetches and playing Dragon's Rage Channeler, so didn't play it here, but I think you could warp this deck into a Chalice deck for even more lock effects, but then you have to probably have even more rummaging effects because you have just your density of clunky cards rises a whole lot if you're doing that. Another one I've just been thinking a lot about lately is Roaring Furnace slash Steaming Sauna is just sort of like a value card that can kill a creature on the way down and then like help take over in the late game. Just something to think about, and it pitches to both Subtlety and Fury. So anyway, let me know what you think in the comments. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you want to see even more nonsense, please consider subscribing. And if you're already subscribed, thank you for your support. Your engagement with the channel helps me know what the people want. Thank you.